Hello everyone. Welcome to UPSC Explainer 101. Today, we'll explore Chapter 12, National Development, 1905-1918, from Spectrum. Let's dive in. Discuss the factors that led to the rise of militant nationalism in India during the period 1905-1909. Answer: British exploitation, increasing discontent over exploitative British policies like high taxation and economic drain, dissatisfaction with moderates, limited success of the moderate methods and slow pace of British reforms made nationalists seek more aggressive methods. Partition of Bengal, 1905. This event became a focal point, demonstrating the divisive British policies and rallying people against them. Educational advances, greater education spread awareness and a sense of unity among Indians. International influences, the success of Japan in the Russo-Japanese War, 1904-05. Inspired confidence in Asian resistance against Western powers. Repressive laws, acts like the Indian Councils Act, 1892, and Indian Universities Act, 1904, were seen as attempts to curb nationalist sentiments. Evaluate the impact and significance of the Swadeshi and Boycott Movement in the national freedom struggle. Answer: mass mobilization. It was a turning point, involving wider sections of society, including students, women, and the working class. Cultural resurgence, encouraged the revival of indigenous arts, crafts, and institutions, led to the nationalization of education and promotion of vernacular languages. Economic impact, boosted the growth of indigenous industries and reduced dependence on British goods. Political awakening, spread political ideas and the concept of Swaraj among the masses. Methods of protest, introduced new forms of protest like boycotts, public meetings, and formation of volunteer groups. Rise of national leaders, gave rise to new leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal, and Lala Lajpat Rai, who played crucial roles in later movements. Analyze the causes and consequences of the Surat Split in the Indian National Congress in 1907. Answer: ideological differences. The moderates preferred constitutional methods and gradual reforms, while the extremists advocated for direct action and Swaraj. Tactical disagreements, disagreement over the extent and methods of the Swadeshi and Boycott movement. Personal rivalries, personal differences between leaders like Gopal Krishna Gokhale, moderate, and Bal Gangadhar Tilak, extremist, widened the rift. Consequences, weakened the Congress and the national movement, led to increased government repression on the extremists, delayed the process of achieving self-rule due to the divided opposition to British rule. Assess the impact of the Morley-Minto Reforms, 1909, on the Indian political scenario. Answer: introduction of reforms, introduced indirect elections and increased the number of Indians in legislative councils, communal electorates, creation of separate electorates for Muslims, sowing the seeds of communal division. Limited impact. Despite the reforms, they were seen as inadequate and failed to satisfy the demand for greater Indian participation in governance. Political awakening. The reforms, though limited, contributed to the further politicization of the Indian masses and the demand for more significant political rights. Critically analyze the role of extremist leaders in shaping the national movement during 1905-1909. Answer: ideological shift. Leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal, and Lala Lajpat Rai advocated for more assertive resistance against British rule, shifting the national movement's focus from moderation to extremism. Popular mobilization. These leaders were instrumental in mobilizing the masses through speeches, writings, and organizing protests, widening the base of the freedom struggle. Emphasis on self-reliance, promoted the idea of Swadeshi and self-reliance as means to challenge British economic and political dominance. Cultural nationalism. They played a key role in reviving Indian culture and identity as a counter to British cultural imperialism. Legacy. Despite their short-term limited success, the extremist leaders laid the groundwork for future national movements and inspired subsequent generations of freedom fighters. Examine the reasons for the failure of the Swadeshi movement and its long-term impacts on the Indian freedom struggle. Answer: lack of clear strategy. Absence of a cohesive strategy and differences in ideologies among leaders led to inconsistent implementation. Government repression. The British government's crackdown on the movement's leaders and activities weakened the momentum. Surat Split. The split in the Indian National Congress in 1907 divided the movement, reducing its effectiveness. Limited reach. the movement largely remained confined to Bengal and failed to become a pan-Indian movement. Long-term impacts established the groundwork for future mass movements, created a sense of nationalism and self-confidence, highlighted the importance of unity and organization in freedom struggles. Discuss the various repressive measures adopted by the British government to curb the rise of militant nationalism. Answer: legislative measures, enactment of laws like the Seditious Meetings Act, 1907, Criminal Law Amendment Act, 1908, and the Indian Press Act, 1910, to suppress freedom of expression and assembly. Arrests and imprisonments. Key leaders and activists were arrested and imprisoned, weakening the leadership of the movement. Surveillance and intelligence. Increased surveillance and intelligence operations to monitor and disrupt nationalist activities. Censorship of press. Imposition of strict controls over the Indian press to prevent the spread of nationalist ideas. Divide and rule tactics. Implementation of policies that fostered communal and regional divisions to weaken the national movement. Analyze the significance of the annulment of the partition of Bengal in 1911 and its impact on the Indian national movement. Answer: British acknowledgement of Indian opposition. The annulment was a recognition of the intense opposition the partition had generated, boost to nationalist morale. It was seen as a victory for the national movement, enhancing the confidence of the nationalists. Shift in British policies led to a change in British tactics from overtly divisive policies to more subtle means of control. Impact on extremist movement. The annulment also marked the decline of the extremist movement, as the rallying point of their agitation was removed. Long-term consequences. It set a precedent for the effectiveness of organized resistance, influencing future strategies in the freedom struggle. Evaluate the role of newspapers and journals in promoting militant nationalism during 1905-1909. Answer: spreading awareness. Newspapers like Kesari and Band Mataram played a crucial role in spreading nationalist ideas and information about British exploitation. Mobilizing public opinion. They were instrumental in mobilizing public opinion against the partition of Bengal and in support of the Swadeshi movement. Platform for extremist views. Provided a platform for extremist leaders to share their views, thereby reaching a wider audience. Encouraging cultural revival. Promoted Indian culture, language, and heritage as part of the broader nationalist agenda. Facing repression. The government's crackdown on nationalist publications highlighted the repressive nature of British rule, further fueling nationalist sentiments. Discuss the role of various social groups in the Swadeshi movement. Answer: students and youth played a pivotal role in spreading the message, organizing protests, and boycotting foreign goods. Women's participation was significant, marking their entry into the public sphere of political activism. Workers and artisans supported the movement by participating in strikes and focusing on indigenous production. Intellectuals and writers contributed through writings, speeches, and organizing events that promoted the ideals of Swaraj and self-reliance. Peasants, although their involvement was limited, they were affected by the economic aspects of the boycott movement. Analyze the impact of international events on the rise of militant nationalism in India. Answer: Russo-Japanese War, 1904-05. Japan's victory over Russia inspired Indians with the success of an Asian power against a European one. Rise of nationalism globally. The growth of nationalist movements worldwide provided a model and inspiration for Indian nationalists. Anti-colonial movements. Developments in other colonized nations provided strategies and moral support for the Indian struggle. World War I. Although slightly later than the period under consideration, the global shift in power dynamics during World War I had a profound impact on Indian nationalism. Assess the importance of the Surat Split in the history of the Indian National Congress and the freedom movement. Answer: revealing ideological divisions. Highlighted the deep ideological rift between the moderates and extremists within the Congress. Weakening of Congress. Temporarily weakened the Congress as a unified political force against British rule. Strengthening British position. Gave the British an opportunity to exploit these divisions and strengthen their control. Long-term reunification and growth. Although divisive in the short term, it led to a long-term rethinking and eventual reunification within the Congress, incorporating both moderate and radical strategies. Prelims MCQs. Which of the following events is not directly associated with the rise of militant nationalism in India? A. Partition of Bengal in 1905. B. Russo-Japanese War, 1904-05. C. Abyssinia's victory over Italy. D. The Surat Split in 1907. Answer. C. Abyssinia's victory over Italy. The Seditious Meetings Act was enacted in which year to suppress nationalist activities? A. 1904B, 1905C, 1907D, 1909. Answer. C. 1907. Which of the following was not a reason for the fizzling out of the Swadeshi movement by 1908? A. Severe government repression. B. Lack of effective organization and disciplined focus. C. Support from Muslim peasantry. D. Arrest and deportation of leaders. Answer. C. Support from Muslim peasantry. The Indian Press Act, aimed at suppressing the freedom of the press, was passed in which year? A. 1908B, 1910C, 1907D, 1909. Answer. B. 1910. What was the primary aim of the Morley-Minto Reforms of 1909? A. To grant full independence to India. B. To introduce parliamentary democracy in India. C. To divide the nationalist ranks and rally the moderates and Muslims to the government's side. D. To abolish separate electorates for Muslims. Answer. C. To divide the nationalist ranks and rally the moderates and Muslims to the government's side. The partition of Bengal in 1905 was announced by A. Lord Curzon, B. Lord Minto, C. Lord Lytton, D. Lord Irwin. Answer. A. Lord Curzon. The Indian Councils Act, criticized for its inadequacy by nationalists, was passed in which year? A. 1885B, 1892C, 1909D, 1919. Answer. B. 1892. Which of the following was a prominent leader in Maharashtra during the Swadeshi movement? A. Bipin Chandra Pal, B. Arbindo Ghosh, C. Bal Gangadhar Tilak, D. Lala Lajpat Rai. Answer. C. Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Vande Mataram became a theme song of the Swadeshi movement after being sung in a massive meeting in A. Delhi, B. Bombay, C. Calcutta, D. Madras. Answer. C. Calcutta. The Surat Split in the Indian National Congress occurred in the year A. 1905B, 1907C, 1909D, 1911. Answer. B. 1907. The Indian Press Act, aimed at curbing the freedom of the press, was enacted in A. 1908B, 1910C, 1911D, 1907. Answer. B. 1910. The Morley-Minto Reforms introduced the concept of separate electorates for Muslims in A. 1905B, 1909C, 1911D, 1916. Answer. B. 1909. Rabindranath Tagore composed Amar Sona Bangla during the Swadeshi movement, which later became the national anthem of A. India, B. Pakistan, C. Bangladesh, D. Nepal. Answer. C. Bangladesh. The Seditious Meetings Act, aimed at suppressing nationalist meetings, was passed in the year A. 1907B, 1909C, 1910D, 1911. Answer. A. 1907. Who was the first Indian to be appointed to the Viceroy's Executive Council as part of the Morley-Minto Reforms? A. Dadabhai Nauroji, B. Gopal Krishna Gokhale, C. Satyendra Sinha, D. Motilal Nehru. Answer. C. Satyendra Sinha. The partition of Bengal was seen as a strategic move by the British to A. Improve administrative efficiency, B. Encourage economic development, C. Weaken the nerve center of Indian nationalism, D. Address religious disparities. Answer. C. Weaken the nerve center of Indian nationalism. The Swadeshi movement's emphasis on self-reliance, Atma Shakti, primarily aimed to A. Promote Indian industries, B. Cultivate a sense of national dignity and confidence, C. Reduce dependence on British educational systems, D. Challenge British economic policies. Answer. B. Cultivate a sense of national dignity and confidence. The Morley-Minto Reforms of 1909 were criticized for A. Completely ignoring Indian demands, B. Failing to provide substantive political reform, C. Overemphasis on industrial development, D. Prioritizing military expenditures. Answer: B. Failing to provide substantive political reform. The Surat Split in the Indian National Congress, 1907, had long-term implications for A. Strengthening British control over Indian politics, B. Diminishing the role of extremism in Indian politics, C. Highlighting the need for unity in nationalist ranks, D. Solidifying the moderate approach as the sole method of struggle. Answer: C. Highlighting the need for unity in nationalist ranks. The extremist ideology during this period was characterized by A. Complete rejection of constitutional methods, B. Advocacy for passive resistance and boycott, C. Emphasis on violent methods for independence, D. Focus on legal reforms within the British framework. Answer: B. Advocacy for passive resistance and boycott. Thanks for watching.